What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for another special edition of the show. On today, what we are talking HBCU football. The Celebration Bowl is over. HBCU football is over for the year, and Jackson Stwte is the Celebration Bowl champion. We were wrong on our final pick of the season, but Jackson Stwte dig their big one. I got Arielle Kilgore in the building. Arielle, how you doing today?
We was big wrong, and I hate it so bad. Big wrong, but congratulations to them. Honestly, been an interesting weekend in all of HBCU sports. Sports just going on around. The 12-game college playoffs is going on. Michael Vick is a head coach now. This is a lot. It's a lot going on, and Jackson Stwte finds a way to be dominant again and ruins Chenesbury's miraculous Cinderella season. I hate it, but I'm so excited for them because they're back on top.
Yeah, they are. And honestly, it was a very interesting game. We're going to get into it. So Jackson Stwte won 28-7, but the box score is sort of deceptive in a way because this was a closer game, especially in that first half than you'd think. You know what I mean? So it was very interesting how this game went and sort of the subtext of the game. But Arielle, I want to get your opinion on it, because I actually went back before we did this recording. I watched it on Saturday, but I watched it again before we did this recording to make sure I saw what I saw. And I got through the first quarter. I was like, yep, saw it. I got it. I got it. I don't need to see the rest of these quarters. It's in the first quarter. I said, pause, Michael Vick. You know what I mean? I'm just I saw what I need to see. So Arielle, what did you see on Saturday? What did you see from the game?
I mean, just looking at Jacoby and Morgan, you would have thought Michael Vick was out there. It was just amazing to watch the poetry that Jackson Stwte actually put into motion. And, in some parts, I wasn't really looking at, the physicality of the game, but just the mental capacity to play the game and some of the football intelligence that Jackson Stwte was going to bring. Because while we were talking about this in our pregame, we discussed how they are their own Achilles heel. They'll shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to flags. They'll shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to penalties. They are really big. I don't want to say taunting, but they're very prideful in what they do. And as soon as I saw Fertillion Moss, that South Carolina State player, for the first touchdown of the game, I said, this might be over with. I don't know how you can get much better than that. And he not only did it once, but he did it twice. And I think having that kind of confidence that Morgan had with these players, and even Mulligan getting really, really good into the game and running it down the field for the most part. He was really the star of the game besides Fortillion's really great catches. It just seemed like there was nothing that Chenesbury could do. And I'm watching the game. I didn't get to watch it twice because, as you know, I had a busy weekend. It was graduation weekend. Shout out to all my HBCU grads. But as I'm watching and I'm looking at the sideline, I'm looking at Chenesbury, I'm telling you, this man probably pulled out God's playbook. He's just like, you know what? Let me just see what he has in here, what kind of plays that he's calling. And there was nothing to stop that defense and nothing to stop that offense once Jackson Stwte got on the field. And I'm not saying I was disappointed, but I think that Chenesbury really gave everything that he could, but he was just overshadowed by TC Taylor and what that offense really brought. To me, when you can stop Kadarius Adams, only giving him 4 carries for 16 yards, there's nothing else that South Carolina State can do. I mean, they have weapons. They have really good wide receivers and tight ends, but we know that their backfield is the main thing that they rely on. Their tail, their running back, whoever they can get back there, that's who makes the points. And Eric Phoenix was the only one to score the touchdown of that whole game. This man tried, but Jackson Stwte just proved to be so dominant. And I can't even be mad at their performance. I can't even be mad at the speed that they move. I can't even be mad about Morgan. Morgan was releasing that ball within 2 or 3 seconds. That's the fastest I've ever seen him throw the ball down the field. And just taking those shots, having the confidence within himself to know where my man is. The one thing that I can say that I think really threw off South Carolina State and something that kind of wore them down was that one-on-one coverage, just having that man-on-man coverage. And Jackson Stwte ran that play almost every other time that they was on the field. So if you know that one team is going to run a play every other play, there should be some kind of defense that's going on there. or some kind of play that's going on South Carolina State's defensive coordinator side. Like, they're going man-on-man coverage. It's always going to be one-on-one every single time. And they just got outbeat. And not knowing what Jackson State was going to do, or probably looking at through the season, like how I was looking at them, oh, they make so many mistakes. They're going to have so many penalties on the field. To me, this wasn't a bad game. It was a clean game. I might have to say that this game didn't look as close as you may have looked. I would say like halfway during the second quarter, right before we got to halftime, I think South Carolina State just kind of gave in, no matter how much fight that they had. And it wasn't a gave in that they knew they were going to lose the game. It was just giving in. It's just like, we're trying everything and nothing is working. So we're just going to have our confidence. We're not going to let our pride, stop us from actually playing this game. But if we lose, I would like to say that they did have a really nice winning season. You still have Chennis Berry. You still have a really good team. You just have to know how to play the next team better. And Jackson State deserved this win, regardless.
Yeah, I think they deserved it, but I wouldn't say that they dominated the game. I would say that they dominated the time of possession for sure. Like they control the ball. I mean, you look at the time of possession, and we're looking at ESPN's clock, 36 minutes and 11 seconds they had the ball versus South Carolina State, 23 minutes and 49 seconds. Like Jackson State ran the ball 51 times and they got 2 touchdowns on the ground, 152 yards. Jacoby and Morgan, you mentioned it, 15 to 22, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. To me, the game was closer than it appeared because it was very much so through those first, I would say 3 quarters, even though Jackson State got the 14 points in the second quarter. Through the first 3 quarters, it was a defensive battle. And I think that what you saw was 2 very physical teams. Jackson State was just as physical as South Carolina State. And we sort of knew going in that that's the way that TC Taylor built this team. And I think when you look at the SWAC being more of a finesse league, I think that you were able to see why they were able to get where they were in the SWAC and why they were able to get the Celebration Bowl and win. A lot of times with these SWAC teams that come in, they have the passing, they maybe the quarterbacks, they'll throw the ball around the field, but oftentimes the MEAC just comes and out physicals them. That's what happened in 2021 with Jackson State and South Carolina State. Like Buddy Pugh, you get that first touchdown, I think a field goal, and then for the rest of that game, South Carolina State did dominate that game because they figured out sort of Shedeur. They figured out Shedeur and what they need to do to put pressure on him, to disrupt that offense. They cut off the head of the snake. They were able to win 31-10. This game was different because you had 2 scoreless quarters. And I think that that's something that is a testament to South Carolina State's defense, because from the moment that Jackson State got that kickoff, ran it back for a kick return, then you have the penalty called. And then very oddly, you got the referee that's like, first, I want to salute the veterans. But anyway, you got this penalty. You ain't getting no touchdown. I'm sitting back because I'm looking down because I'm just working. And I look up. I was like, wait a minute. Did I just hear salute to the veterans? Did I sit down on a remote and I turned to Army Navy? Like, what the world? We got to do the celebration, but we love our veterans, but I got to do the celebration, but this is my job. I get paid. Okay. So like, I'm sitting back. I'm like, what the world? So that kick return, when they did that kick return before it was called back, I was like, y'all know Jackson State coming out to win. When I saw that, and it was crazy they kicked to him because he's really good at punt returns. But like, that's when I knew just the energy and just the way that was handled, even how they moved down the field. Like it was just an energy that Jackson State had when they knew they had to win this one. They knew that this was their opportunity. I think they're gonna have more opportunities in the future, but I just felt like they knew, like, we lost these 2 times. We gotta bring this back to Jackson. We gotta bring this one. We gotta win for TC. But just the game itself, I think that South Carolina State's defense showed up. As oftentimes in these type of games, they do. The defense showed up. I mean, because they ran 51 times, but for a lot of those runs, South Carolina State was holding them. They were holding them to only a couple yards gain. You had some 4th and 3s they went for and they were able to get through. South Carolina State's defense held up. It was the offense. And the problem with this offense was they did not run the ball enough for me. And this is sort of the consensus amongst other folks too. So this is not necessarily an original thought for me. I'm not this football genius. I just watched the game and I saw that, hey, you have one team that runs the ball 51 times. And of course, we're in that number, we're counting in the fourth quarter when they're running the ball out to end the game. But even before that, they were really running the ball. They kept the ball on the ground and they would take their shots, but they ran about 51 times. To South Carolina State's 19. You talked about how KZ Adams only had 4 carries for 16 yards. Eric Phoenix was getting sacked, all these different things. He had 8 carries for 17 yards. Only 19 carries on the ground for 30 yards. That's not how you win in this type of game. And I know that when you look at South Carolina State, they have adept running backs. You have DeAndre Duhart, you have KZ Adams, you have all these great running backs in that running back room. But we know, and they talked about on the ESPN broadcast, we know that at Benedict and also at South Carolina State, that Chennisberry kept a good quarterback. Eric Phoenix, then when Eric Phoenix left and went to Murray State, you have Aeneas Dennis. Then Eric Phoenix comes back to South Carolina State. He's the HBCU Plus Player of the Year. He's the best quarterback in HBCU football. And they have a balanced attack. It was balanced. This ain't balanced. 31 to 19 ain't balanced. It's tipping over the passing. And the pass game wasn't working. It just simply was not working. And when they were running the ball, the 19 times that they did, the yards per carry didn't look good in the box score. From what I saw with my eyes on Saturday, they were able to make some things happen. So I just think that Coach Barry, he knows football. He's going to be an HBCU coach and legend. Losses happen. But I just think that the game plan, they didn't really stick to a game plan that I think would have worked for them. And I think that once Jackson State got that touchdown, and the guy got mossed, like you talked about, and then they started to really get going in that second quarter, got the other touchdown. I think that the offense sort of got trigger happy and was like, we got to get back in this game. We got to do what FAMU did last year when Howard jumped out 14-0. When it's like, play your game. Because the run, I felt like, was working. But I think Jackson State dominated the time of possession. And if I can keep the ball for 36 minutes and you didn't score till like the fourth quarter, I'm going to win the game. But I don't think the story is them dominating. I just think they played their game. They didn't try to get on ABC and get cute in front of them 2 million people. They were like, we going to play the game we played all season. I think that South Carolina State, they were going to play that game. And then they got a couple 3-and-outs. And then they were like, let's throw the ball around the field. And Eric Phoenix can do that. But he didn't do it on Saturday. So I think that for me, that's the story. But I think that Jackson State won that game. But South Carolina State's game plan, I wasn't a fan of it.
I would say I would have to disagree with you. Actually, the only thing that I agree with, I sound like Stephen A. Smith. You're completely wrong. But the only thing I agree with you with, the only thing I can say is that, yes, the MEAC is more physical and we do win more games like that. And I would have to say the SWAC is more logical. If they can't beat you physically, they'll beat you mentally. And I think that is one of the things that contributed to South Carolina State's loss. But to me, you have Eric Phoenix only going for 13 and 31, 143 yards, his 1 interception. And even though they didn't have that much time possession on the field, even though your defense is still holding them to a sense, I feel like they got the rug pulled out of them. I feel like they got outplayed. Not saying that Chennisberry did a bad job. I don't even think it was a coaching thing. I think it was, in a sense, not learning from your mistakes. And I think there should have been a lot of different changes in plays on both sides for your offensive coordinator, even for your running back coach, and even for your defensive coordinator and whoever is training your safeties and your corners. There's something that wasn't learned from these times of passing the ball, not running as much, not using the backfield as you should, because we know that's the main way that you dominate. When we look at all the games that they have played against this season, South Carolina State, most of their wins and most of their touchdowns come from that running game. So I can also give you that point. They didn't stick to what they know, but also to me, they just were outplayed. They were outplayed in the passing game. They were outplayed as a quarterback. They were outplayed as a team. There is nothing I think that South Carolina State could have done better besides learning from their mistakes that would have led them to win against Jackson State. I think TC Taylor just had a game plan and he figured it out. It wasn't just he stuck to a running game. He had a really nice passing game. You have a really nice quarterback. And Morgan also running down the field, also showing his duality. To me, it's just nothing that you could. They were helpless. That's all I can say. Eric Phoenix was Eric Phoenix. He did what he had to do. He was the only one to score that touchdown. He helped his team revive himself, but that D line was not helping at all when it came to the fourth quarter. To me, it looked like they were exasperated. You get tired of running the same play. Like I said, that man-on-man coverage that they kept running down that field, and you're not able to keep up with them players. You're not changing positions. You're not changing personnel. You're just thinking that if I play this man at the same time, and this is our best man, you don't want to take out your best man. That's like taking out LeBron, or that's like taking out Giannis, or that's like, using your basketball references since, they won the cup and we're getting back into basketball. But we're seeing all these things that Berry did do. But I would have to say, even though if you look at the box score, cool. You can see that, they got crippled. If you really watch the game, you can see that, hey, maybe that defense was really good, but into the middle of that third quarter, they just got outplayed. There was nothing that they could do to bring themselves back up into contention, or even trying to make this a close game, which this should have been a close game. We got a 28-7 game. I think I said they'll probably lose by a touchdown. I think not lose, but they'll win by a touchdown. I think you said they'll win by a touchdown or less. It was supposed to be a close game. This wasn't a close game at all. And like you said, teams are going to lose. Stuff is going to happen. This didn't have to be Berry's miracle season where he just goes and he takes it all. But what I do want them to learn from this is you have to figure out the venom for the other person's opponent. Because if you just think you're going to try to run duplicate plays hoping for different results, that's the definition of insanity. And at some point during that third quarter, we were looking at insanity, running the same different options on the same team that is beating you every single play. That's the reason why they had so much possession. That's the reason why they won most of their turnovers. That's the reason why South Carolina State had 2 of their turnovers and a fumble and an interception. You can't play like that. You have to play smart or take control of your team and try something different. We saw that in the passing game, but then they kind of stuck to it. You need to get on the ground. So hopefully South Carolina State understands that when you play teams like this, especially for the SWAC, who is mentally smart and knows how to get in your head, and who is football smart and reads their books and knows their plays, besides your physicality, you're going to have to know what that other opponent is thinking. Because to me, you think this was a game that showed a really good defense. I think this was a game that they just didn't learn from their mistakes, and this is what caused them to lose. Did they hold up a good front? Of course. But did they learn how to move that ball on the other side of the field when the defense decided to do their job? No. And that's something that's on the defensive coordinator. To be honest, that's just something on your coordinators that they're just going to have to learn. All right, we went to Celebration Bowl. We lost. This is what we did wrong. Let's run it back. Because this is not the end of Berry. TC Taylor, congratulations. To me, this is more of a victory for him than Berry. Berry did really, really great. But for TC Taylor to prove that he is that coach, Jackson State is back on top, that we can do this without Prime, who shadowed them out and was excited for him because he's had a great weekend. Travis Hunter won the Heisman. Now his old school just got their Celebration Bowl back into Jackson State University. This is amazing for him. But I want South Carolina State to understand, just because you went in and did everything you could doesn't mean you did your greatest. It just means you need to come back and go harder.
Hey, it was amazing for me too. I'm not gonna hold you. Like, listen, like Travis won that Heisman. Like I said, yes.
I was so happy. I said, if Travis does, how are you gonna tell me that a player that plays both sides of the field, that is good on both sides of the field, is not good enough for a Heisman? Ain't no other players doing that. He deserved that. And, kind of giving his credit to Jackson State because that's where he started. But, why not end Jackson State on a good year? Celebration Bowl, former Jackson State player with a Heisman, getting back the championship. You can't get any better than that.
Yeah, you can't. And what I'll say before we move on about the Berry point is that one thing I hate about sports fans, and I always get on my rants about sports fans. I'll make this brief. It is, we always try to find we're going to diminish this thing. And one thing that I saw and I knew was going to happen was that with how South Carolina State lost, it was, this is Division II coach. This is Division II guy. And I just think that's so dense. I'm sorry. It's so dense that people were saying that, because was he a Division II guy when they swept through the MEAC? Was he a Division II guy when they beat your Division I guy, North Carolina Central, which was a Division II school until like a decade plus ago? Like, so it's like it don't be making sense. Like it's football. Like I hate that when people look at Division II football and other divisions of football, they just think it's Pop Warner. And it's so funny because for FCS football fans, and more so the graduates, I love HBCU football, but I went to Fort Valley, and we're right now Division II school. But you look at how FBS schools, even group of 5 schools that aren't really all that great, they're like, oh, we're playing HBCU. That's a win. Like, they look down on HBCU athletics, but then you got folks from these Division I schools atop their perch of, we have X amount of students that go to our school and X amount of alumni and all this scholarship money and endowments. We're so much better than this Division II school and this Division II coach, when he brought the same mentality, a lot of the same players on offense and defense to South Carolina State and ran through the very physical MEAC. And then went toe-to-toe with FAMU, controlled that game until Daniel Richardson got them back in that game to start the season. And then won his out-of-conference games. Like, they lost the Celebration Bowl. That happens. Like, I just think that sometimes, like we expect perfection, especially in championship games, almost like Michael Jordan winning 6 rings. Or he won 6 rings. He didn't lose, but the Pistons were beating him. Back in the 80s, he never beat the big 3 Boston Celtics, and he shouldn't have. His team sucked. He shouldn't have beat them. Chennis Berry's team was really good. They had a historic season by all metrics. First season he made the Celebration Bowl. I know, but if you proud, but if you ain't saying you lost Chennis, so he's proud. And if you're in the MEAC outside of Michael Vick going to Norfolk State, which of course, that's going to be a thing, you should be worried about Chennis Berry, because he figured some things out. He know what he need, and he gonna recruit what he need. He gonna get another quarterback, because just believe me, he gonna get another quarterback, because he got Aeneas Dennis right after Eric Phoenix. And he gonna get another quarterback right after Eric Phoenix graduates and goes on. He's gonna get us some more running backs when they graduate. He's gonna get another defense. Just know Chennis Berry's gonna have some stuff. So it really was crazy to me that, like, we as sports fans, we find every reason to diminish something. The man lost. And then TC was like, well, I guess Chennis Berry went 0-1. They're like, they went 0-1 this week. And I was fine with that. I'm like, hey, he did. Definitely 0-1. Like, literally, figuratively and literally. Okay? But like, he already, like, that. Now he said that, but I was like, well, see, these Division II, it's crazy to me. It's crazy. And if I went to FAMU or I went to A&T, I keep it real. I would have said the same thing. I keep it real. If I walk the stage with you, Arielle, I'm B, so I walk, and then Kilgore, you walk. We would have been on this podcast saying the exact same thing. I swear to God, I would have said the same thing. See, I just think it's wrong, but that's just me. That's just me.
No. You're right, and I hope in any translation, I'm not.
Not you. I'm talking about the folks on Twitter.
Yeah,
not you.
Yeah. I think I did say, I don't fault Chennis Berry. I literally started off my statement. He literally did everything he could do. He went to God's handbook, and it just wasn't for him. It wasn't in his plans. I think it was your coordinators, man. You're running the same plays every single time. You're not trying nothing new. There's nothing new. And I don't think this is the end of Chennis Berry. And you're 0-1 now. Definitely, but you swept the MEAC. A win's a win. A win's a win. I don't know what to say. A win's a win. Chennis Berry is still a great coach. He's not losing as much as Jackson Stwte is about to lose next year. So we'll see about that. But don't sleep on Chennis Berry. This is his first. It's his first time here, and I think I said that in the preview of the Celebration Bowl. The only thing that's going to stand against them is their first time being there. Jackson Stwte has been there before. They know what it means to win. They know what it takes. And now that Chennis Berry has got this experience under his belt, this man has championships under his belt from your D2 colleges that ran conferences a couple of years ago. This man knows what it means to win. And don't think this is the last time you're going to see him.
Exactly. So let's talk about the future, because I sort of gave the preview of it with South Carolina State. You got Jackson State, you got South Carolina State. We're gonna start with the champions. So Jackson State, they won the Celebration Bowl, and they're entering a SWAC where we have a couple vacancies. You have Alabama A&M, you have Prairie View. There's a lot of chatter for Prairie View, and this is not a report I've just been hearing, that maybe Tremaine Jackson from Valdosta, talking about a Division II coach, a Division II coach that's an HBCU alum that has Valdosta in the national championship for Division II. They're saying that might be the guy. I'm not sure. I have no sourcing on it. Alabama A&M, we don't know where that's going to go. I think it should be Sam Shade from Miles College, but I don't know at this point. I sort of want a celebrity to take that over. I'm not gonna lie to you. Make my job easier. Make my job a lot easier. My training is probably really good. But like, we don't know. To be honest, 20 foot really good. But like, there's some question marks at Prairie View on the west, and then for the east, Alabama A&M. But for Jackson State, like, what do you think the next step is for them? Like, where do they go after this Celebration Bowl win?
Well, let's start with the obvious. They're going to be losing some players. The most obvious is Irv Mulligan. He is a senior. So you lose the main man that marched you down the field and scored a couple touchdowns himself. To me, Irv Mulligan, he's replaceable, but honestly, he is irreplaceable what he has done for that Jackson State season. And then also, you're kind of looking a lot of their defensive ends, a lot of their defense was mostly seniors as well. So you get to keep a really strong offense, but you're losing the part that won you the game by keeping you on the field and forcing South Carolina State to punt a lot or fumble or have those turnovers. So, I mean, to me, if I was a coach, I think it would be better for me to keep my offense and get them stronger and better and to maybe lose my defense than for me to keep my defense and rebuild from our offense, because we saw that at Central this year. Central kind of rebuilding in their backfield, Central rebuilding with their new quarterback Walker Harris, who I think is just going to be just as good next year, losing a little bit of their weapons. So, North Carolina Central knows how hard it is to rebuild an offense. And I think TC Taylor is about to go through that just a little bit. I don't think it's going to be hard to find, but I think it is going to be hard to train. So he gets to keep most of his offense besides Irv Mulligan. So that's not going to be bad. I think that in this time, I think they're going to fix a lot of errors. I think they were lucky this season. And you can disagree with me if I'm wrong. I think they had a really, really lucky season to crumbling towards the end. FAMU the exception of not having a great season. Honestly, Southern just being Southern, not really doing good, but still a lot better next season. I think what we're seeing in South and the SWAC is that these teams fell in dominoes, but in the line that Jackson State needed them to win. And a lot of the wins from Jackson State were either from behind or they pulled through last minute. And I know he wants to fix those technicalities that they had and some of the penalties and some of the sloppy play, because none of the games that they played this season should have been that close in winning. That Prairie View game shouldn't have been close. There's some other games that shouldn't have been close. I think some of these teams could have pulled Jackson State numbers if they didn't lose to different teams outside of their conference. So one of those things that I think TC Taylor is going to do, just try to clean up the mistakes, make them a little bit more neat. Try to find another offensive running back weapon, because I don't know how you're going to do that out of Irv Mulligan. But other than that, I think they get to stay the same. I think they get to grow and become bigger. And now that they have their confidence back, now that they have that championship trophy back, I think they can only get better. I am a little scared because some of the teams that sucked actually did really good. Like I said, Southern wasn't great, but they had an amazing record. There is something that is going to flip that switch next year. I think Alcorn may be coming back, and then you still have two coaching positions that are about to get rocky, and these D2 coaches are starting to show. Well, they've been showing, but a lot of people are starting to notice that they could coach. I think Chennis Berry has put D2 coaches on the map for himself, which is another win from him, because nobody was looking at D2 coaches to carry them all the way. You got Chennis Berry having an undefeated season in conference, go to the Celebration Bowl in his first year. D2 coaches are starting to get a look at. You're starting to see a lot of people. So I think Jackson State is going to be okay. You have minor holes to me. I don't think Irv Mulligan is a big hole, but it's something that can sway which way their season is going to go. But unless the offseason recruitment from Southern and Grambling and Alcorn get really good, I think Jackson State may run it again unless FAMU figures out how to score and not lose their games. But I think they're going to be fine. I really do.
I don't think FAMU is going to figure it out next year. I think Jackson State could be right back in the Celebration Bowl, honestly. Depending on how they recruit. I trust TC Taylor in his recruitment primarily because he had to largely rebuild from scratch. We talked about it last week. He had to rebuild from scratch when Deion took 11 players with him to Colorado. And then you had, I think, 41 or 51, I forget the number, of those players went to the transfer portal and went to other schools. So he had to rebuild from the ground up into a 7-win team. And it was someone on Twitter that I made that, that I pointed that out after the game, as the game was drawn to a close, that it wasn't a rebuild, because typically in rebuilds, rebuild is like, we won 11 games, now we won 4, but just you wait, next year we're gonna win 6. Like, that's a rebuild. Like, this was not a rebuild. Oh, they lost 4 more games. Oh my God, that's not a that is we took the team that was 11-1, most of the team left, and we had a winning record, won 7 games. We lost to our rival in Alcorn. We lost to FAMU in the Orange Blossom Classic. We lost to Alabama State during homecoming. Yeah, I mean, that sucks, but like, you won the games you were supposed to win, and that's a foundation to build off of. You know what you have, you know what you need to bring in. I trust that TC Taylor is going to be able, for any holes on that offense and defense, and even special teams, he's going to be able to fill those holes with the transfer portal and through recruiting, because I think Mississippi has a lot of great high school players, and Jackson State is a premier institution, premier program in Mississippi, so I think that they're going to get them. I don't have a lot of faith in some of these other SWAC contenders. We're going to see what Alabama A&M does, but I just think Jackson State, year 2, you win a Celebration Bowl, and then, TC Taylor, I think he was calling the offense too. I just think that they're going to be really good next year. They have a foundation to build on. So for me, I think that they're going to likely be contending for the SWAC championship again, and I wouldn't be surprised if they back in the SWAC championship. Now who they're dancing with in that SWAC championship, I do not know. I don't know who they bring to the dance, Arielle. Okay, they might go by themselves. Okay, they might go by. I was afraid to go by myself to the prom. Okay, I was afraid. I went to 2. I didn't go to 2, but I was afraid to go myself to the prom. I'm just going. I don't even dance. I'm just going to stand there. You look nice, Randall. Thank you. Like, what I'm saying. But like, I'm just like, what I'm saying. But Jackson State, they gonna bring somebody to the dance with them. To veterans or wherever it's going to be at. But I think that they could be there. But this is early. I want to, because FAMU just got a Florida State guy. They got a Florida State guy on the defensive line. So we're going to see. There's going to be some guys from Florida State that's going to leave, all of them and stuff like that. So they're going to get some guys. But also another thing too, Willie Simmons is in Miami too at Florida International. So now you're going to be recruiting, unfortunately, especially for some of those transfers against Willie Simmons too. Now I think he's going to help out FAMU a little bit and say, hey, well, we can't use you, but FAMU, I think you try Tallahassee, and that's what's up, because that's what they were doing for Willie. Like Florida State, some of the other schools, they were doing that for Willie Simmons. So I think that as an FBS coach, he's definitely going to look out for FAMU. But for some of those like really high quality guys, you're going to have to recruit against Florida State, against Miami, but also against Florida International. So I think that, we're going to see what happens with FAMU, but I think that Jackson State, I think that, they could be right back in that dance, I'm telling you. But I want to move on to South Carolina State, because this is where it gets interesting, because we both very high on South Carolina State. So where do you think South Carolina State goes?
I was just looking at South Carolina State's roster, and I'm just going to have to say Chennis Berry's recruitment ability is going to have to go hard. You lose Eric Phoenix. You lose one of your really good tight ends, Ellis. You're losing a lot of your defensive end this year because they're seniors. And besides Eric Phoenix coming in as a grad student, I don't know if the others are going to try to apply for one more year and play as grad students, play that extra year. But Chennis Berry has a lot to recruit on. And that's a little scary. The only people that are mostly returning, thank God, are his running backs, Duhart and Kazarius Adams. Because I don't know what you would have to do if you have to replace both of them. And you can't replace both of them at one time. But, finding a quarterback great. Finding a quarterback, a tight end, 4 more defensive ends, a safety, it's getting a little pressure. It's a lot of pressure going on there. That's why but we know after this year, Berry's ability to recruit and make people come play for him. And just because he didn't win a championship doesn't mean he has any strings that he can't pull. I went and swept the MEAC. Can't nobody say that. I swept the MEAC as a first-time coach. I went to the Celebration Bowl as a first-time coach. I'm beating these white teams. I'm putting BTA on these teams. You feel me? Because I can't say what I want to say. Berry has a resume that anybody want to play for. I would want to play for that man. Put me as the kicker. Put me on special teams. I'll do it for you, Chennis.
You know, we can. Let's do it. Because Jackson Stwte had Leon Armentos. Let's do it.
I'm ready to go back to college. I need to redo my senior year anyway. But like, I do. I had COVID. When I went to graduation this weekend and I saw the blankets that they had shirts with like all the names of the people that graduated. They didn't do that for 2021. They didn't even give us like a little holder to put our diploma. They just shook our hands and walked us across the stage.
What?
We ain't getting nothing. So I would gladly go back to get the flowers that I'm due. But South Carolina State is losing more pieces than Jackson State, and it's going to be a lot of positions to fill. But knowing what Berry has done and then the opportunities that come for these D2 players, to me, and we said this before, I think we said this last season. Oh my gosh, we're about to finish our second season of Pulse. This is crazy. Last season, we were just talking about the extraordinary players in D2. I don't think it would be a stretch for Coach Berry to not pull anybody that's like a D1 or a top star player. I think this is a time for the D2 to kind of come up. And I wouldn't mind if he went down to the nitty gritty to get you another running back, or to get you a really good corner, or honestly to build back those defensive ends, because you get to keep kind of half, a little bit more than half, 60% of your offense. It's just really that D line that you're trying to build. So I wouldn't mind if you went back and got him some dogs, or if he's just in the process now. Maybe we don't know what's in that man's hand. He's been surprising us all season. But I'm not really worried about him, just because I know his recruitment ability and I know how he trains and I know what he brings to the table. I'm not as worried as I am with Jackson State. I think the only thing that may scare some people is, yes, you're looking for a new quarterback, maybe, potentially, more than likely, but I think they're going to be fine. I'm not as worried for them as most people would be, because I just think this is just the grind to go back harder. I really think this is like a redemption season that they're about to go into, and I'm not as shook as people think I should be.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the nature of where we are in college athletics with the transfer portal, you're gonna lose guys even if you stay. Like you're gonna lose guys, So I trust good coaches and their staffs to recruit well, because they have to. There are certain things like even when we work in a job, you have another responsibility. Or maybe the industry changes. Like you have to, like as media people, we have to be good at social media. In like 2010, that might not have been a prerequisite. That might have just been an extra additive. We could just write or we could just talk. But now you have to sort of be able to do some level of content creation, because that's how the industry changes. It's just like with college athletics. The transfer portal takes away a lot of players, because especially at the HBC level, and we've talked about this, a lot of these players want to play in the NFL. Then now there's money to be had in NIL, and then you have these colleges that are going to have to start paying these players, and it's still yet to see what HBCUs where we fall in that equation, because that's going to be very challenging for a lot of HBCUs that are struggling for resources. They're not like on the brink of closing down, but there's not the surplus of money that you're getting from media rights deals or ticket sales or things of that sort, which we need to rectify. We need to figure that out. So it might be a little bit different, where some of our better players say, hey, well, this local, like this South Carolina State, this South Carolina is going to bring me in and they're willing to pay me X amount of dollars. So for a Berry to already have built a team after Buddy Pugh retired, and they went to the Celebration Bowl, and he had his Benedict guys. He's been gone for Benedict for now a season. Like the Benedict pipeline, unless you're looking at the guys that are on the Ron Dickerson, you could look at him. He has some good guys. That's done. You know what I mean? So now you have to sort of go back to your South Carolina pipelines. You have to go to your pipeline states, almost like a college football 25 reference, your pipeline states, okay? And you got to go to Georgia, you got to go to North Carolina, go to Tennessee, all these different places. And, you know, you got to find players. And I just think he will be able to, from the transfer portal to high school recruiting. I think that he knows. And it was something I was thinking about, and we'll move on after this. But I was thinking about this when it comes to recruiting and team building, because I'm you know me, I'm a fan of team building. Arielle, like rosters, I'm talking about rosters and trades and all that stuff like that. You recruit your philosophy, and I think that a lot of people miss that, because I think in this transfer portal era, a lot of folks, and this is not a shot to Dion at all. This is other folks have done this too. You try to find talent, like you're trying to find former 4 stars, former 5 stars, 3 stars that's hopping in the transfer portal. You're trying to find this blue chip high school player. But does that player fit your scheme? Because you can find a quarterback that maybe these FBS schools weren't looking at, or maybe your competitors weren't looking at. If they can do what you want them to do, you might make it back to the Celebration Bowl. They don't have to be Eric Phoenix. If you get a quarterback with the Chinnisberry scheme that his offenses and his offensive coordinator draws up, that you can run and you can pass, you can move the ball down the field, you can be a part of the ground game, that's fine. You know what I mean? Because and I think that Chinnisberry is not necessarily trying to get the highest star guy, or this guy he had 4 stars in high school, he's leaving South Carolina to come here. I think that he's good. Him and his coaching staff are good at talent evaluation. I think that a lot of people miss that, because some coaches try to get the stars, but other coaches recruit for need and recruit for philosophy. You know, and I just think that we miss that. I missed it sometimes because I be recruiting. I'm like, this person goes to what school? They did this versus me recruiting for need. No, that's gonna change in the Michael Vick era. I've already been planning. But we do it in real life, where it's like this person got this many degrees and their GPA is this, but are they what you need? Or is your need different, where you might get someone that might not have the flashiest resume, but you talk to them, they have this certain skill set, you bring them in. I think that with coaches, especially with the Chinnisberry and a TC Taylor, I think that that's going to be the thing. Can you recruit your need? This year, I'm not going to be looking at the guy from South Carolina that comes down, or the guy from Clemson that Chinnisberry gets. I'm not going to necessarily be looking at that. I'm going to be looking at high school recruits and who you're bringing in that didn't go to Clemson. Maybe because Herb Muggin came from Samford. So who are you bringing in from a school that people ain't talking about? Because I think that's going to be the test for both of them, but especially for Chinnisberry, that is going to be the test of how good that team is going to be in year 2. And I think he's going to do well. We both believe in Chinnisberry. I think that he's going to recruit well, but I think that for a lot of folks, when they talk about recruiting, I just think that people don't understand that sometimes you're not trying to get the 5-star player or the former 4 or 5-star. You're just trying to get the fit. And I think that that's the thing that we got to look at.
So you going to tryouts for Alabama A&M, or you trying to come over to the MEAC and coach? I felt inspired. I was like, dang, we about to have a good roster next year. Yeah. Throw Randall in the mix. Randall know what he's talking about.
I mean, if Michael Vick needs a recruiting coordinator, okay, I got my Norfolk hoodie over there. I was going to wear it, but I was like, nah, not yet. You know what I'm saying? Because when we do our Michael Vick show, just know. Listen. Then I'm gonna be good. My money gonna be good 2025, and until Linda McMahon takes my federal loans. Okay, so just wait.
Listen, I it's funny. Still paying attention to the news. There's about to be a rude awakening come January 21st next year. It's gonna not just for people, but for Trump's administration. There is going to be a rude awakening. Y'all thought Biden was asleep. It's finna be a rude awakening.
Oh, yeah. And you know something though? You know that's gonna affect football in a way, because we got to think about this too. That some of these players aren't getting full scholarships. Because I know for Georgia, for example, there are some schools where you get Hope, you get Zell. So some of them aren't getting full scholarships, so they'll get a partial scholarship. Then you get Hope, then you get Zell or something like that, and then you might be good. If that, well, I know those are state scholarships, but like if that type of help goes away, what happens to some of these players? Because some of these players might not be able to get scholarships to stay in college. And for me, and we're not going to get too political because we got going and go, but I know that for me, I have faith that the Department of Education is not going to go away, because that's going to take 60 votes in the Senate. They got to withstand a filibuster that's going to work on our end, and I don't think that's going to pass the House at all, especially with the narrow majority. So the Department of Education is not going to get completely disbanded. I'm nervous that Linda McMahon is going to hamper it at the behest of Trump in some way. But I also wonder, he's like, oh, I gave the most money to these HBCUs when the Biden administration gave more. So are you going to tokenize us again, Trump? Because you swore I gave all the money. Like, hey, what you going to do? What you going to do? You know what I'm saying? So I'm really, what you going to do with the money? I don't believe in you. I don't. I believe in Chinese Berry. I don't believe in you.
All I got to say is these private universities, Morehouse and Spelman will stay at the top. It's really those state-funded universities, A&T included, that have something to worry about.
Yeah,
that's really it.
And look out for FAMU too at the state level. That presidential search, and like this affects athletics. What I'll say is this: the one time thing of anti DEI. Oh, we got to find a firm that doesn't uphold DEI. Well, what happens with the president that then has his strategy laid out for athletics? Because they have the athletic director, but that president also has to have a buy-in as well, because the president support athletics just as much as the athletic director, because they're the ones that's like, hey, let's go to the games, let's do this and that. If there's two contrasting visions for athletics, what happens? And that contrasting vision, that don't get me started, because we can talk about DEI when it comes to sports, about how we need a diversity not just of race and gender, but of experience. Let's not talk about that, because you're not going to meet two black folks that had the same experience. So you want to bring people in and have divergent experiences from how they work, where they're from, but also their lived experience as a black man or a black woman. That's a different experience that you're going to look at the position from. So they say, we're not going to do DEI. Well, that makes no sense. So now we got to look at FAMU, who was doing perfectly fine before the scam, okay? They're doing perfectly fine before the scam. So like they the number one public HBCU on the list 2 years in a row. I know A&T's coming, okay, I know. But they was number one. But now we like, what DeSantis and that board gonna do with FAMU? So we gotta look at it. Gotta look at it. But just saying, gotta look at it.
You're right. You're completely right. So listen, we're going in early.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing, who do you think is coming to the Celebration Bowl?
You go first.
No,
yes.
You've got me for all these segments. I just made a great transition because you know I don't ever get to do the good transitions.
You did. You did a great transition. Yeah, okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Give me this, and then you can let me have the specifics. Who's taking Celebration Bowl, MEAC or SWAC next year? Give me that.
MEAC.
Yeah.
But let me ask this, okay?
Okay.
Can I say Norfolk? Like, am I allowed to put Norfolk in the game?
You're
am I allowed to? I'm not. But can I?
No, I'm not giving Michael Vick his first year, and I love Michael Vick, Atlanta down, but I'm not giving this to him his first year. I'm either going to see South Carolina State running back, but everybody is mad sleep on Morgan State's come up.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is mad sleep on Morgan State's come up. I'm not saying that Central is out of the equation, but what I am saying is Chinese Berry is going to have something to fight about, because Morgan State ruined celebration hopes more than anybody else. It's always that one team. I think Morgan State might be bidding next year. I really do. But South Carolina State, if they don't run it back, I don't know what's wrong with me. But South Carolina State is running it back. Norfolk, it's going to take a minute, Michael Vick is a quarterback. He is a quarterback. And I'm not saying that that's not the best kind of coach to have. But if you look at the coaches that have come into the HBCU space, they have more than a quarterback mentality, Deion Sanders included. So Michael Vick, being that mostly that was the position he played, but a really good position that it is, I think it's going to be a learning curve for him. If he wants to Chenisberry his season, I'm coining that phrase. I'm putting a patent on that. If he wants to Chenisberry this season, by all means do it. But nobody's gonna out Chenisberry. So like I'm not expecting Michael Vick to come into the MEAC and completely dominate. I don't see that. I don't.
I can agree with you on that because the MEAC is tough up top because you have to deal with Trey Oliver and Chenisberry now. So it becomes more interesting because you're gonna most likely get the best version of those teams you're playing either way. Like South Carolina State would get the best version of that first year Vic team. North Carolina Central get the best version of that second year South Carolina State team and vice versa because it's 5 teams, or 6 teams. 6 teams, like 5 if you're looking from that standpoint of a coach, but it's 6 teams, right? So, and then Delaware State has an open position. Who are they going to get? You got guys. So who are they going to get? You know what I'm saying? So, like, ideally, what I would want for us and also for me and for Clutch Points, who like they give us from me a tremendous opportunity, and I wasn't I missed Deion by a few months at Clutch Points, okay? Because fun story, Arielle, fun story right here. The Clutch Points job, I saw that position in 2022. I just didn't apply because I was like, I don't know. Like it was the associate editor for HBCU content. I saw it, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, because I didn't have I was doing post full time. And I didn't go for it. But then, we had they reached out, we had some conversations, and then like, oh, they still got that open. So I applied. And I was like, yeah, I also applied for the position. And they were like, oh, really? Like, so it's like, I could have been around for Deion. I could have, they could have seen the best of me. Okay. Like Anthony Hamilton. You feel what I'm saying? But like, they gonna see the best of me now because they saw, so I'm like, we gonna see. I would love to see Michael Vick in Atlanta, in Mercedes-Benz. Will he do it? I don't know. I think Chenisberry is going back. I think realistically, if you ask, if the Celebration Bowl was the week before last, and Michael Vick, we don't know nothing about the Michael Vick thing yet, and we talked about it, I think Chenisberry is going back. No disrespect to Trey Oliver, I think it's going to take a minute for him to find a suitable Davius Richard replacement. I honestly think it's going to take him a minute. And then Walker Harris is coming back. I didn't check his status. I think you said he's a junior, a senior.
Yeah,
right?
he'll be a junior next year.
Okay.
He was a sophomore coming in. So if Trey Oliver does decide to recruit another quarterback, we may have another Kirk Cousins. I had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
We may have another Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix on our hands. But rooting for everybody that's black.
Yeah, exactly. In Atlanta, where Michael Vick is the coach of HBCU, yes, we are.
Yes, we are. So, listen. If he decides to pull another quarterback, cool. Walker Harris isn't bad. He's not bad. He just knows his game. He only plays his game. So if Trey Oliver does decide to get him another quarterback, I'll give it to him. But despite Michael Vick being in the conversation now, a Hall of Fame quarterback who dominated to me the industry and changed what it means to be a quarterback, especially a black quarterback in the NFL. I just don't, no offense to him, like I said, his skills are great, but I just don't see him carrying Norfolk State this first year, which isn't bad. Like I said, what Chenisberry did was impossible. It's rare. No coach should be doing that, but it's Chenisberry. He's God's favorite, You get favor ain't fair, but it's fabulous. You feel me? Yeah. But Michael Vick, I don't see that right now, and that's okay. Do what you have to do. Get that program at least to like a, what is it? Like maybe like a 5-7, maybe like a 6-7.
Yeah, they play about what, and they're not gonna be in the MEAC SWAC challenge unless they play a week 0 game. It's 6-5, like 11-ish games. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
so
Around that, yeah.
if you win 5 or more games, that's a win for me in my book. You know, just have a better season than what they've been looking at. You know, 4-8, it's not bad, but it's not great. You know, I think it could be better, and I think they're going to get better. It's just Chennis Berry is finna take another shot and just learn from his book and call it a day.
But here's the thing with Norfolk, real quick, is they've only had 2 winning seasons since they moved to the FCS in 1997. Now, granted, they had winning seasons that were vacated in 2016 because of some irregularities that occurred by the NCAA. They had a few that were taken away. So technically, on the books, they're only winning seasons. And for sure, 2021, Dawson Odoms in 2021 had him going, and he just and you know what's so crazy about it? He actually beat Trey Oliver. That was actually a really, I think it was wasn't that 2 overtimes? I think I watched that game live. He beat Trey Oliver.
Yeah.
So yeah, that situation going on. But the other year, and I'm pulling it up right now, the other year was Pete Adrian 8-3 in 2007. That one didn't get taken away. So they've only had 2 winning seasons since 1997. Norfolk has struggled. They also struggled in Division II as well. In the CIAA. So, you know, that is something to really look at. But I'll tell you what, before we move to this WAC, I'll say this: Michael Vick should be good with every HBCU person because he beat Brett Favre. Okay, that's all.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
He beat Brett Favre. They wasn't ready for that. Well, they weren't ready. And then the game is on YouTube. Go watch it. It's on YouTube. It is a classic. He beat Brett Favre. So if Michael Vick happens to be anywhere near Jackson State people, they should like when Michael Vick walk on that field, they should just cheer. They should just cheer because he beat Brett. You ain't going to the Super Bowl, Brett Favre. You ain't going to the Super Bowl.
Shout out to my man Brent, bro. We love him. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But like, come on.
But handcuffs, okay? Anyway, but
respectfully,
handcuffs.
Respectfully.
but the SWAC. I'm tempted to say Jackson State again, but only because we don't know the variables. Like I said, it's been chatter that Tremaine Jackson, who was a Texas Southern alum, he coaches at Valdosta State right now, that he is in line to become the Prairie View coach. I do not know that. I've heard that from a lot of different places. You know, the Division II side, I've been hearing that. But if he comes, he knows how to build a program. And similar to Chennis Berry, he's going to bring some guys with him. Because one thing we have to factor in is that though a lot of Division II guys, they want to play Division I ball. And, you know, the NIL and different stuff like that is a thing. But he has a lot of guys on Valdosta that I'm sure if he left and went to an HBCU, they're not so beholden to Valdosta where it's like, oh, I'm staying in Valdosta. Like, no, they're gonna go with him. And then if he wins the national championship, it might be some other schools like, hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? They might do their hey big head text. You know what I mean? Like you never know. You know, so it's like we don't know if he's gonna go there. So, like, for right now, I think that you have to give that burden to Jackson State. I just think you have to. They're gonna lose people, but I just think that that's a program. You hire program builders. That program is going to be solid, and I think what TC is building is going to be sustainable. So I don't know. And a part of me, for right now, I don't know if I trust Cozy. I don't know if I trust Cozy. And I will say this and toss it over to you. Hey, you're not going to be ready for this one.
No.
Okay. Sean Gibbs should be FAMU's coach. Okay, go ahead. He should have been FAMU's coach. They would have been in the SWAC championship if he was FAMU's coach. But go ahead.
Well, obviously, Sean Gibbs recognizes a winning program. That's all I gotta say.
Oh my god.
Sean Gibbs knows what's up. He knows where home is. He knows where home is. Real quickly, so I can get you out of here. By default, I agree with you, Jackson State, just because we don't know what's going on over there. I really want to say that Alcorn may be looking kind of good. I've never been so uneasy about a team like how I am with Alcorn. But Jackson State by default just had I don't see anything that's really blocking them, and I don't really know, despite the coaching situations that are going on with the SWAC, how some of these teams that should have been dominant that ultimately failed towards the end of their season are going to recover, because it's not necessarily um a coaching issue, and I wouldn't say necessarily it's a playing issue. It's just how to be better than the person that's next to you. And a lot of these teams have not figured it out the way Jackson State has figured it out. Um, and that's a little scary. I don't want the SWAC to be what the SWAC was this year, because it was very disappointing, but I don't want it to be lacking in contention for any team. I don't want I wouldn't I mean, if you're gonna run the SWAC, run the SWAC. We've seen teams that have run conferences for years, but I don't want Jackson State to just run it and there's no competition. So until everybody figures their stuff out, Jackson State it's just going to be dominant. That's the way it's going to be.
So we're basically saying rematch, fourth time's the charm at this point. There's going to be Jackson State and South Carolina State, unless Michael Vick just comes out. He comes with his beat Brett Favre energy and just takes over. That's what we're saying.
That's what it's given. But like I said, we also can't leave Trey Oliver out of the conversation. If he figures out a quarterback, it's game over. It's basically South Carolina. They are basically South Carolina State, but without a quarterback. They are a really good team, and they're not losing anybody this year. They're not. So, that's something to look out for too. But there's a lot of variables that can go into this. I think the MEAC is set. The SWAC just has a little bit more to figure out.
A lot more to figure out, and we're gonna definitely talk about coaches real soon. We're gonna do a show on that. So I'm super excited for that. One last thing, this Celebration Bowl, Arielle, what? why you laughing over it? why you laughing over it? It was the perfect conclusion to a weird season. It was the perfect conclusion to a weird season. And I'm telling you, I think that God told Michael Vick to come to told Deanna to go to Jackson State. God said, Michael Vick, look at the SWAC. Go to Norfolk State. Do some good stuff there. Stay there for 4 years, okay? You know what I'm saying? And make it right. Because it's gonna be interesting. At least in the MEAC, it's gonna be so interesting. And maybe in the SWAC, people see Michael Vick said Norfolk. Oh, let me go to an HBCU, because it was so bad. It was so bad. It honestly was. And I love HBCUs down, Arielle. It was bad. It was poor football. Like, honestly.
This will be I think, this will be the first time, I want to say, that the MEAC has had like a celebrity of notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're looking at a Deion season, Michael Vick, if you're not bringing the sponsors and the TV, I don't want it.
Well, that's not on him. That's on the MEAC. And all I'll say is that they need to shoot their shot at TNT. They're losing the NBA. They sub-licensed the college football playoffs first 2 rounds. Then they got unrivaled with women's basketball. I'm super excited for that. They have the Mountain West. Then in that trade with the Inside NBA, them licensing the Inside NBA to ESPN for the next 11 years, they have Big 12 basketball and football games. You have a TNT that's already in the HBCU game. They're already in it. You have the Michael B. Jordan Classic. You have the NBA HBCU Classic. Then on top, there's going to be an All-Star Weekend. Then on top of that, you have the CP3 Challenge. So this is not like a company that don't want to work with HBCUs. So get me at.
I say this is much Michael Vick's conviction than it is the MEAC as well. Like, I mean, you have a chance of somebody that is just as big, a little bit under Deion Sanders to actually make a difference. Him just come, like, if Deion Sanders just came, cool. But Deion Sanders didn't just come. He came with his personality. He came with his crew. He came with everything. Out of all the things that I expect from Michael Vick, as him being a good coach, a good player, and a good mentor, actually, this man is really great with kids and he knows how to get somebody mentally prepared. I need to see those connections. Not just for me, not just for A&T, but for all MEAC teams. And even going into the future with MEAC, adding some more teams to the conference, adding people that want to come and play. He holds more of a response. I will hold him to the same standard as Deion. There's more of a responsibility than just being a coach. It's especially going into this new presidential administration. There is more on your shoulders than you think it is. Regardless of him just being a coach, you have some responsibility there.
We'll talk about that more. But before I go, I gotta say this on air. Have I told you that I met Michael Vick? And I'm so serious. I met Michael Vick. I told you about that. I'm so serious.
We don't have time for that story because your stories go from 2 to 15 minutes.
I was about this because I did meet Michael Vick, and it sucks. I cannot find that picture. That's just my life. I cannot find that picture for the life. And we took a picture, but I can't find that picture. Yeah, we'll tell it in the next one. Or I might go to Twitter, do the AI. I might do Grok and do AI.
It's just like Will Chamberlain's game. Did it really happen? Did it really happen?
That's right there. I feel you. That's right there. All right, Arielle. That's right there. That's why we gonna double back and get Sean Gibbs. Okay.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
They're gonna run on back and say, "Hey, listen, we were wrong." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you're just upset. You're just saying that because you're upset, and it's fine. I'll take it. That was a good comeback. It's fine.
Well, Arielle, this was a great season. It was amazing doing another season with you, and it's a lot more to come because off season is going to be crazy. So where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at __.modernday Ari, or go ahead and put me on the hot seat who's really going to run the Celebration Bowl or football next year, HBCU Sports, at @AskRiri__, or check me out on my website at arielkilgore.canva.com. I
love it. You listen to HBCU Pulse Radio.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to hbcupulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.